Let's connect with Upasana Chachra, who's the Chief India Economist at Morgan Stanley, to discuss what could be the potential outcome. And in light of where we've seen vegetable prices soaring, what's your indication as to what the RBI could do this time around?
Hi, so we expect the RBI to be on hold in the policy review tomorrow. Yes, inflation is picking up and it is being, is evident in the high frequency food prices. If you look at vegetable prices and also more broadly going into cereals or pulses prices as well. So inflation numbers will be higher than what we've seen, especially in the trailing 3 months. But having said that, we think that RBI will look through that and maintain a pause for the August policy review.
Pastor, key is also going to be the kind of commentary that the governor has tomorrow on around inflation, because typically even on status quo policies, the commentary has been dovish. Do you think the stance is now going to get a little hawkish, and the commentary would be also so?
So I think another thing to watch out for from the policy tomorrow would be what RBI does with its inflation forecast. So just to recall, inflation forecast by the RBI currently for fiscal 24 stands at 5.1%, and the near-term inflation number, so that's for September quarter or the December quarter, are around the 5.2% mark. And I think that's where we think there would be a need for an upward adjustment in the inflation, because we do have information now that food prices are higher than what was anticipated when these inflation forecasts would have been made. So we do think that firstly RBI would also be probably increasing or marking to market its inflation forecast for fiscal 24. Our number is currently at 5.4% for fiscal 24, and RBI is at 5.1, as I mentioned. And I think the near-term inflation trajectory is where the bumping up would be more. Like we expect September quarter inflation to be above the 6% mark. So I think that's one key thing that would probably also come through from the RBI policy tomorrow, in terms of how much higher does the RBI see inflation in fiscal 24, and more specifically in the near term. And yes, as long as, if you're increasing inflation forecasts, then the commentary would be, would have to take that into account. And to that extent, there would be a bias to continue with the inflation fighting sort of stance that it has. Per se, we don't think that there would be any change in stance, or the officially the way the stance is currently worded. But yes, the tone and the stance would be more tilted towards continuing with the inflation fighting stance going ahead.
Okay, what is the outlook in terms of the impact of overall rate hikes that have been taken in the past, and how you're looking at that impacting the growth trajectory for the Indian economy?
See, we have seen interest rate hikes of about 250 basis points from the trough, and real rates have now moved into positive territory. But having said that, we don't think that this is a restrictive tightening or a restrictive tightening bias in the policy setting at the moment. Liquidity also remains close to neutral. So all in all, it's pretty much a policy which is balancing both growth and macro stability concerns, and that is what is coming through in terms of the data as well. So if you look at the high frequency growth oriented data, that still shows pretty good and strong trends. So domestic demand related indicators, so the things of GST collections or the PMI numbers, they all remain pretty robust. And the underlying growth momentum still is holding up, driven by domestic demand. So we remain comfortable with our view of GDP growth at 6.2% for fiscal 24. And I think per se, the impact of monetary policy is not really, going to be adverse on the growth trajectory, as it's not in that restrictive tightening zone anyway.
Okay, thanks so much for joining in and giving us your view, Upasana, as to what the expectation is from the Reserve Bank.